This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Welcome you into Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, Sirius XM Channel 158. He's Jonathan Von Tobel. I'm Stormy Buonantony. We're live in downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. Got a lot to get to over the course of the next 2 hours, so let's set the table off the top like we always do. Time for the rundown.
It's time for the top headlines and topics of the day. This is the rundown.
Something we will be doing each and every Wednesday. JVT, we will get into a little PGA Tour action as the West Coast swing rolls on with the Farmers Insurance Open at Torrey Pines beginning tomorrow. We're going to preview it all with John Haslbauer, who joins the show in 30 minutes, and a whole lot more.
Looking forward to it. Now, let's not dedicate every Wednesday because there might be some days in which we're trying to get a Wes Reynolds, and maybe he'll be on a Tuesday as we preview golf. But we've dedicated ourselves to look ahead to the golf tournaments every single week. Very much looking forward to this one. Unlike last week, I was talking about this with Matt Humans at the Superbook last Sunday. We were watching football. This will not take course over the course of 3 courses. So this will be a little bit easier to handicap, I think, and not the bleep show outside of Scotty Scheffler being incredible that last week provided. So I'm looking forward to getting back on the horse for my New Year's resolution.
Okay.
Although technically I didn't actually lose out on my resolution. I did tell you what I did. No, I didn't.
No? What?
After we got off the air last Sunday, I bet our boy Blades to win at 7-1. And he doubled the next hole, I think. So.
Meanwhile, for the Farmers Insurance Open, San Diego State's own Xander Schauffele is your favorite at just shy of 15-1. Speaking of my Aztecs, they are in action today against Colorado State on the hardwood as well. We will preview a ton of college basketball with our new college hoops edition of West Coast Bias as we transition out of college football.
Yeah, it's a big one, and it's actually a big night on the West Coast. Yep. San Diego State is a very big opportunity in front of them. Grand Canyon blew it yesterday against Nevada. New Mexico obliterated UNLV, so the Aztecs can solidify their spot on the top of the Mountain West with a win tonight. And does the slide continue? Over the weekend, we watched Oregon get walloped by Danny Sprinkle and the Washington Huskies, and now they are hosting UCLA. I am very interested in a lot of these West Coast games tonight, so it's a good day to have a West Coast bias.
Good day in the NBA as well. JVT on and off the court. We've got a national doubleheader we'll get into with Cavs, Lakers, and Spurs, Rockets, but some bigger news coming out of Milwaukee as well, potentially on the future of Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Yeah, he has officially demanded a trade. Now, as I texted with Tim Murray earlier today, it's like the different variations of Dr. Pepper. There's Dr. Pepper, there's Dr. Pepper Blackberry, there's Dr. Pepper Blackberry Vanilla, there's Dr. Pepper Cherry, right? It's all the same soda, though, for the most part. It's the same thing here. We've known that Giannis wants out, right? This is just the Dr. Pepper Zero Vanilla Cherry, a version of what's been going on here. We've been waiting for this, and even in the wording of the report, Giannis wants to find a new home. Just say you want to be traded, bro, and let's get this over with. And it finally seems that maybe we're going to rip the Band-Aid off. And last little point on this really quickly, I wouldn't be surprised if in the next week we find out that he has a new agent either.
Okay. We'll talk about that more in depth. I would also argue that the cherry vanilla diet Dr. Pepper is the best diet soda out there. Don't at me, or do if you want to join in any of the conversations today. At Storm Buonantony, at me, JVT, at VSiN Live. Let's bury the lead no more, though. We got lots of NFL to discuss, not only with Super Bowl 60 upon us, head coaching changes all over the league, but the big one here, and I know that we are not a talk radio network, but a Hall of Fame fail that absolutely warrants top-of-mind discussion, as Bill Belichick, according to reports, will not be a first-ballot Hall of Famer. For anyone who missed it, and I don't know how you could, if you watch any sports television or are on social media, in the early voting this month, reportedly, Belichick fell short of the 40 of 50 votes needed for induction his first year of eligibility.
Okay. So I'm going to say this first.
Okay.
Because I know people
I'm mentally preparing.
I know people, and I'm sure you're going to get mad. So let me just get this part out of the way first. If I was somebody who was voting for the Hall of Fame, I probably would have voted for Bill Belichick to make the Hall of Fame. I want that very clear, okay? Having said that, we need to stop acting like this is a massive surprise, that there would be some people who would view his resume and say, yeah, bro, you got caught cheating multiple times. I don't feel like I want to vote for you on a first ballot basis, and so thus I'm not going to. I think that should be a little bit more upfront. We're acting like Belichick was this pristine figure, and again, like the winning is there, but that is a fair thing that if you're a Hall of Famer and you feel like you didn't want to vote for him the first time around and you felt like the cheating was a big enough blemish on the resume that it kept him out for a first ballot honor, that makes some sense.
I think that it's understandable for having that as part of the conversation, but I still think, given the overall resume and everything that he's accomplished, that it's astonishing to me that this is even a question. And you even have all of the social media traffic of other Hall of Famers, soon to be Hall of Famers. Jimmy Johnson even coming out. Did you see his tweet with all of this? He said, if they are using the excuse of Spygate, that's ridiculous. And he was quote tweeting some Fox Sports radio conversation, making a similar argument that you did, and basically praising the Hall of Fame voters for not having him and having it be penalized for this. But he said, it's ridiculous. Many teams, including ourselves, tried it. Howard Mudd at Kansas City, who later coached for Bill Polian and Tony Dungy, both voters, by the way, gave us the idea he was the best. We didn't get anything and stopped, but many teams gave it a try. And the Polian stuff is all very, very interesting as well, because you either remember or you didn't remember that you voted for Bill Belichick.
And he will be on NFL radio later today, as our boss Steve Cohen told me, to get to the bottom of that. But he's on ESPN. He's 95% sure.
He told Sports Illustrated that what was the exact quote? I thought I wrote it down, but that is totally and categorically untrue. I voted for him. That's what he told Sports Illustrated earlier yesterday.
And then he followed up with ESPN saying he was 95% sure that he did it.
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, look. So this is. I'll invoke the Rudy Gobert and Victor Wembanyama thing really quickly, and just saying, like, this is what happens where now I have to kind of start making the argument. It's going to sound like I'm on the other side of this. I think just to say, well, you're just using Deflategate as an excuse, or Spygate as an excuse, and that's ridiculous. There was the deflating of the footballs that he was in the middle of. Hold on, let me finish. He also had Aaron Hernandez on his roster. There are things that are part of Bill Belichick's resume that I think are glossed over. And again, I would have voted for him. Yeah. But to act like this is something, and you get on a slippery slope when all these people are like, the people who didn't vote for him, they should get their votes revoked. Okay, so where does that stop? Where does that stop in terms of the people who are up for first ballot Hall of Fame status? Because we want them in, you should lose your vote if you don't. That's ridiculous. These people have votes for a reason. I just think, again, I probably would have voted for him. But to act like this is some shocking thing when you actually dissect Bill Belichick's resume, and not just the winning, pre-New England Patriots, post-Tom Brady, all of those things, I don't think it's shocking that, what is it? You needed 11 people, right? Would have been. You
needed at least 40 of the 50.
So that means 11 did not vote for him, correct?
Or more.
You're right. So that's, to me, I don't think it's that shocking that 11 people or more would go, you know what, no, first ballot, I don't think that's it.
So I think what makes it more interesting to me is that this discussion was very much so around Robert Kraft initially when it came to his Hall of Fame induction, and we still don't know whether or not he will be on this ballot. I think a lot of the expectation is that this is the year that it will happen for him, but we do not know that answer. But all of the conversation around him getting snubbed for as long as he had was that, well, Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, they're going to be first ballot Hall of Famers. And then ultimately, we have it come out that they're not. And I feel even silly that we have to bring out the resume, but he's done things that no other coach in NFL history has done. Mm-hmm. He's got 6 rings. He has been to, 9 in all. He has 2 more rings as a defensive coordinator in his time with the Giants. He has more playoff wins than any other coach in history. He has the second most consecutive winning seasons with 19. He has the second most total wins in the entire sport behind only Don Shula.
He's also 83 and 104 without Tom Brady as his quarterback.
Okay, but that doesn't take away anything else that he did.
But again, I would vote for it. I'm just saying there are reasons why you wouldn't.
What I do want to make sure that we play here, because I think that this is an interesting portion of this, Hall of Fame voter Shireen Williams was on 105.3 The Fan this morning discussing kind of the Belichick discourse and what her thought process was throughout the meeting and discussion ahead of the vote.
There was no indication in that meeting that Bill Belichick was not going to make the Hall of Fame. I will say it like that.
Wow. So it's not like, and I know you can't comment on certain things, it's not like you have like the top 2 or 3 arguments made against him by the people who made them. That wasn't present to you.
No, 11 people did not speak out against Bill Belichick. Were there concerns about Spygate? Okay, but there was no indication that there were going to be 11 votes against Bill. I thought it was a shoo-in. I thought it was a done deal. Who are going to be the other 1 or 2 or maybe none that get in from the other 4? And I'll say this. You're not necessarily voting against Bill Belichick. And there may have been people, and too many people, who said, hey, Bill Belichick's going to make it. He's a shoo-in. So I'm going to vote for the 3 seniors candidates, or I'm going to vote for Kraft and 2 other seniors candidates.
Yeah.
So I think that was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, he's going to make it in. I know we're all getting mad about this, and because I can already hear it, I would, again, have probably voted for him. I don't know what the whole entire list was. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's shocking that 11 or more people would think, I'm going to vote for, player A, for person A, B, or C over Bill Belichick this time around.
Some of the other commentary from notable voices out there, Patrick Mahomes tweeting, it's insane. He, quote, doesn't understand how this would be possible. J.J. Watt, I can't be reading this right. This has to be some knockoff Hall of Fame or something. It can't be the actual Hall. There's not a single world whatsoever in which Bill Belichick should not be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I mentioned the Jimmy Johnson note. Adam Schefter also had an NFL executive tweet him almost immediately. Those 10-plus people who didn't vote for Belichick should be exposed. WTF. This is crazy. Definitely, I think at least a very big surprise, and that's why you're seeing the reaction that you are. But that is the news of the day. Bill Belichick, not a first ballot Hall of Famer. Now the question is, will Tom Brady be one?
I would argue that Giannis Antetokounmpo demanding a trade is the news.
Okay. The other news of the day in the National Football League before we get to that. And again, we haven't heard, have we heard demanded? We have not. So let's not make things up now, Jonathan.
You're right.
However, Todd Monken also hired officially as the head coach of the Cleveland Browns. That is something that we'll get into. We'll hear from some of the other head coaches who have officially been introduced. But we got to take our first time out of the day coming up on Money Moves. As JVT alluded to, it is no longer all quiet on the Giannis front. We'll look at the latest from Milwaukee as the trade deadline nears in the NBA next.
So you're listening to this podcast because you want an edge. But what if I told you you're only halfway there? You've got the mindset. Now it's time to get the toolkit to match. Here's the thing. Pro bettors spend thousands on data and tools. But what they don't want you to know is that you can get the same edge for a fraction of the cost with VSiN Pro. VSiN Pro gives you access to expert picks, public betting data, prop projections, powerful tools, analytics, and more. Just tap the link in the description and see why thousands of bettors are already using VSiN Pro to cash more bets.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Can I add something to our discourse and then we can end it finally?
Sure,
I hate Hall of Fame talk.
Especially because it continued into the commercial break.
Sure.
We might as well.
I despise Hall of Fame talk. Let me put that out there as well. I mocked, I do local radio out here with a local media member, Steve Cofield, and I mocked him the other day because he started to bring up Andrew Jones making it to Major League Baseball Hall of Fame, and I was like, nobody cares, dude.
Of all the Hall of Fames that people really don't care about right now, it's probably.
But I will say this and the rest of these Hall of Fames as well. I don't know the dynamics of the Hockey Hall of Fame. Voters should have to make their votes public. And much like pool reports when it comes to officiating and officials answering questions as to why they called certain things, that should be it as well. You should have to make your vote public, and you should have to explain your rationale for why you voted for certain people over it. You're not going to lose your vote, not anything like that. And Speed to Burn checked in as well, and I would agree. He said, I don't think they should lose their vote, but the votes should be made public so they can defend, as he puts it, their stupidity. Yeah. I would say whatever. And he says, I'm speaking as a Colts fan. That is the first part I would agree with. You should have to make your vote public.
I completely agree. I think there should be transparency in that. And all of this to say, and I said it to you in the break, I think the overwhelming thought process here from a lot of fans, and myself included, is just looking at the resume of Bill Belichick and thinking of him as the greatest head coach of our generation of all time, and having him not be on the first ballot is just pretty stunning in what it is. And you can save your Tom Brady stat for what it is. That's the next question too. Will he be a first ballot Hall of Famer? To which the answer, you said, is unequivocally
yeah.
So we'll see if that ends up being true or not.
Yeah.
One last thing on this, too, because it reminded me,
tuning you out.
For anyone, if you listen to the SV Pod with Scott Van Pelt and Stanford Steve, they had a conversation last month talking about the gates, and they were like, enough with the gates, Spygate, Deflategate, Watergate was a hotel. It's not a scandal about water. And I do totally agree with that. Enough with the gates.
Very true. Very true. I actually just read All the President's Men a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, you did. for school.
Yeah, that's right. You saw that. You saw me reading that. Yes, I did. Very good.
It's a great movie as well. Let's get into the NBA because as the NBA's trade deadline does approach, we're just under a week away from that February 5th date. According to ESPN's Shams Charania this morning, two-time MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo is, quote, ready for a new home. Your favorite verbiage. Shams reporting whether it be at the deadline or this offseason, several rival teams are making aggressive offers to the Bucks for him, and the franchise is starting to listen. And I did find this at least somewhat interesting coming off a report this morning from Brian Windhorst, also of ESPN, that while teams all over the league have been preparing for a potential Giannis trade here in short order, that the Bucks actually had been reaching out to other teams trying to acquire assets.
Yeah. So, look, I would expect that he is, I'll make it a small favorite. It's not like a minus 600 that he's going to be gone by the deadline. There's certain aspects of what's happening. But I do think, he's probably played his last game as a Milwaukee Buck. I'd venture a guess that if he is not traded, that the Bucks at some point are going to shut him down for the season and just let him say, hey, take the rest of the year off. We'll try to slug through this, and then we'll trade you in the offseason, whatever it is. The question just becomes, who's going to trade for him? What assets are out there? What packages are out there? A couple of reports. The Warriors have allegedly let the Bucks know, when you're ready to go, we've got a package ready for you. My response would be, all right, that's cute, but no. The Warriors really don't have anything that would make an acquisition of Giannis Antetokounmpo, I think, viable. I know the Warriors would like him, but you're going to give me Jonathan Kuminga, Brandon Podziemski, and a bag of baseballs? Like, what am I going to get here? And in theory, if I get your picks, they're probably going to be relatively bad picks because you're going to be good. So why would I want those? Same thing. There was a trade package put out there for the New York Knicks. It was like the Knicks would get Giannis and Kyle Kuzma, and then they would ship off 2 first-round picks, OG Anunoby, and something else. And it's like, again, why? Like, what are the value of a Knicks first-round pick when Giannis is on the team? That's not really something that I would like. And then there's no real piece to build around with some youth that is going to be there for a while. So I question what packages are really out there at this point right now to get it done. So we'll see if this actually does happen before the trade deadline. We've got about, I think, a week now, right? February 5th is when it's going to come down. 8 days. So we'll see if that's it. And I mentioned this to you because there was a good report out there the other day. Rich Paul, who is the agent for Anthony Davis, LeBron James, he has been pushing behind the scenes to get Giannis. And I believe he's got one of the brothers. I think it's the Nassis, is a member of Clutch Sports. Why this all matters is they changed the rules last year. If you're going to change your agents, it used to be a 15-day window where you would have to wait to get a new one. Now it's only 7 days. Well, we're 8 days away from the trade deadline, and now today we get this demand that Giannis Antetokounmpo wants out.
Oh, okay. So the writing on the wall
so
type
like
of a thing.
so like there is some. It looks like maybe there's some signs that he might be on his way to becoming a member of Rich Paul's agency, which then, of course, would mean some. Who knows where he's going to go, what's going to happen? But it's just worth mentioning, I think.
Speaking of conspiracy theorists, there are a lot of people that are thinking this calf injury came up at a very convenient time, especially after hearing Giannis in the postgame give kind of his own timeline.
He was right, though. I mean, he was right. The official diagnosis was everything he said. So.
The team hasn't given an official timeline on him, but he thinks 4 to 6 weeks, late February. This is I mean, and of course we believe that the calf injury is real. If so, though, the 4th time in the last 19 months that he has had a calf injury pop up, is that concerning for teams that are trying to get Giannis?
Absolutely. I mean, think about where we're at in today's day and age with the NBA in general. These teams are hypersensitive to calf injuries now because of the rash of Achilles injuries we have seen. There has clearly been at least strong correlation to calf injuries leading to Achilles injuries and whatnot. We've seen a ton of them. So I would say, you're probably very concerned that this continues to happen for Giannis. It's also, I mean, I think we brought this up last week or whatever we talked about this last, where he has had issues with injuries, not just calves, but just in general. He has been missing time around the postseason the last couple of years. Now, he's still going to be traded for. That's not going to be anything. But I think that's something here. And ultimately, I think you zoom out here. Look, I think they're 4.5, 5 games out. I don't think you're really worried about them making a push for the play-in. You kind of remove a piece off the board. That helps a team like our Charlotte Hornets, who now have to duel with, essentially, they're like the only team out of the picture right now that wants to make a push for the play-in in the Eastern Conference. So there's not really any big futures indications or implications out of this. The Bucks are pretty heavy favorites to miss the playoffs already, I think. So I think that you're probably just sitting back and waiting for this to subside and see who gets them. Question becomes, who gets them, and can we bet on them now? And I would say I don't know if there's really that many places that you can bet on now to go get them.
Following last night's ugly loss for the Bucks to the 76ers, they are now 3-12 this season without Giannis Antetokounmpo, 15-15 with him. A good day for Joel Embiid and Paul George back on the court for the second half of that back-to-back yesterday. Also, congrats to your Clips, who get a win over the Jazz.
I'm telling you, man.
The Pistons beating the Nuggets yesterday, that was kind of a weird ending with Jamal Murray having the multiple opportunities at threes, gets fouled, goes to the line, doesn't make all of them, though. That ends up being costly. Any other results from yesterday you want to get into before we look ahead to today?
No, I think you hit them all. I mean, the Clippers fell down into a little early hole and came back against the Utah Jazz. Our boy Keontae George had a rest night. Larry Markkinen made a triumphant return and only scored 19 points from injury, so really nothing. Although, no, actually, there is something we should know. Did you not see the fight?
Oh, with Lou Dort?
Hell yeah, dude. And a little Jeremiah Fears? Heck yeah, dude. That was awesome. Absolutely tremendous. Now, Dort didn't do anything. He just grabbed him by the jersey and shook him a ton. But either way, absolutely tremendous. Thunder do fail to cover once again. They only won by 9. They were laying about 14. We talked about that yesterday as well. So the ATS slide continues. But at least for Oklahoma City, they get off the schneid, and they have a road game against Minnesota coming up tomorrow.
For your Clippers, I feel like that must have been so nice for you to have an enjoyable watch yesterday where you didn't have to be thinking about Keontae George and your Clippers winning. You just got the best of both there.
I mean, full disclosure, I had it on my laptop while I was at the Thomas & Mack Center watching New Mexico bludgeon UNLV.
Oh, no.
So it did actually take a little bit more precedent considering the game I was watching in person was not particularly great. But I wanted to note, too, I mean, let me double check to see. Do you have the playoff odds in front of you?
I don't.
Okay.
But while you look that up, I did want to say I thought this was a really cool nugget on the Clippers. This 16-3 stretch the 16-3 stretch that they have been on, in addition to being the NBA's best in that time, it is the first team in NBA history, according to Stats Perform, for a team that has both won 16 of 19 games and lost 16 of 19 games in the same season.
Oh yeah.
Remarkable.
Yeah, see, this is flipped because we talked about this. They are now minus 158 to make the playoffs, the Los Angeles Clippers. And I thought that this was a pretty good nugget by some. I would agree with the sentiment. This is starting to grow. That our top 10, I think, is kind of locked in the NBA Western Conference. The order of them is to be determined, but I don't think the Dallas Mavericks or the Memphis Grizzlies or the Utah Jazz are making a push. The Clippers are the 10th seed, and they are 3 games ahead of the team that is behind them in the Dallas Mavericks. So I would act accordingly from there in terms of the way the market's set for odds to make the play-in, things like that. Clippers have a long way to go to get out and get into the top 6. I don't think they'll do that, but I think we feel very certain that this is going to be our top 10 in the Western Conference.
And we do have 2 games in primetime tonight we'll touch on a little bit later, as well as the full card, but Lakers, Cavs, Spurs, Rockets, that'll be a fun conversation. Also, as we are live in downtown Las Vegas Circa Resort and Casino, reminder, you can get ready to win a larger-than-life World Soccer Championship experience right here in Vegas. One lucky winner will score a 2-night stay here at Circa, a VIP cabana for the games at Stadium Swim, plus $500 in credit and $250 in food and bev. Arrive in style with limo transportation, celebrate with cocktails at Legacy Club. It's going to be an awesome time. Enter now and kick off the World Soccer Championship at Circa Resort and Casino. For full giveaway details, head over to circalasvegas.com.
Good one from Brian here. Checks in and says, with Giannis' soft tissue injury, do we know the proximity of the Bucks practice facility to the closest power substation? That we do not know.
That is excellent. I do think it's funny, too, that John Lynch had to answer that question on the podium and say, you know what? We are looking into everything because this is a concern for potential free agents. No, but for players. For players who believe it. It's wild. Okay, we got to step aside here.
I'd argue you don't want to sign those
When
players.
we come back, time to get into a little PGA action. Brooks Koepka back on tour while there's lots of media interest in his first non-major start since leaving LIV. Should there be betting interest? We'll have PGA betting and DFS analyst John Haslbauer join us next to discuss.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
The PGA Tour's West Coast swing rolls on this week at Torrey Pines in San Diego as we welcome you back to Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. The Farmers Insurance Open set to get underway tomorrow, and the good news for us as bettors is that we might actually feel good about some of our outright plays because there is no Scotty Scheffler in the field this week after he, of course, wins his first event as a prohibitive plus 290 favorite at the American Express last weekend. The shortest shot on the board this week, Xander Schauffele just shy of 15-1. To help us break it all down, John Haslbauer joins us here on the Progressive Guest Line. PGA betting and DFS analyst, can find all his weekly articles up at lineups.com. Also co-host of the Preferred Lines podcast. And John, while I kind of make the joke about this being a better opportunity to have an outright bet, I was looking through the results of the last handful of winners at this tournament, and 3 of the last 4 have been 90-1 or longer odds. So should this be a tournament where we can actually get a little bang for our buck this weekend?
It is, absolutely, and thank you guys for having me on. Always excited to talk with you guys and talk some Torrey Pines. It's an interesting one, right, because Torrey Pines is a major venue, and typically when we go to these major venues, the cream rises to the top and the favorites prevail. But that's not been the case at this event over the last few years. As you mentioned, Luke List was a surprise, Matthew Pavone was a surprise, and Harris English, I was actually on Harris English last year, so maybe a surprise to some, but nonetheless, he did open near 90-1 odds. So there is definitely value on the board and less to be terrified of with the boogeyman Scotty Scheffler not in the field this week.
So, John, why is that? Is it the makeup of the course? What are we looking for in some of these golfers in terms of their actual game that maybe lends itself to some of that?
Yeah, I think some of this is the volatility, I think, is a factor of this being the third event of the year and us not having absolute certainty on whose form carried over from the year before. And it's a place where course history tends to be a little bit more repeatable. We saw that with Harris English last year, where he didn't necessarily have his best stuff, but he knew how to navigate this course, miss on the right side of the fairway, miss on the right side of the greens, and give himself easier up and downs. It's also a course that is susceptible to winds, so you can get some volatility and value in wave advantages of players who may miss some extreme winds whenever we're playing on the coast. But largely, it's been an event where the longer hitters have an advantage. It is one of the longest courses that we see on the PGA Tour. And when I'm looking for long shots, I do tend to favor the players who have that kind of extreme distance as an extra leg up in their bag.
Because the South Course is such a bear, how important is it for some of these players to be able to go low on the North Course over those first 2 rounds?
Yeah, it's huge. The North Course is really your only respite here. That's also been something that, I look for with weather splits as well. If you're getting calm conditions when you're playing the North Course, you can really get an advantage and stack up some birdies, whereas on the South Course, they're much harder to come. So I believe it was Jason Day a few years ago who really did all of his scoring on the North Course, went about 8 under, one day and shot about even on the South Course the rest of the way. And that was enough for him, to win the tournament. So it really is interesting when we have these rotating course setups to consider live betting. And if somebody goes, nuclear, goes super low on the North Course, they've gotten, the tough part out of the way as far as finding the birdies, and that might be an appealing place to buy low on.
All right, let's talk about some golfers then. Let's go to one of my favorite guys on the tour, Hideki Matsuyama. We last saw him at Sony, finished tied for 13th. After a week off, what do we expect from him this weekend?
Yeah, Hideki is on my card this week. He is, when I look at the top of the board and the favorites here, he's the guy I have, I think, the most confidence in, given his combination of course history here, recent form, winning the Hero 2 starts ago, and really just overall fit for the course. He's somebody who has loved beginning the season on this West Coast swing, picking up wins at the Century, at the Sony historically. He's not won this event, but he has won at Riviera, 2 years ago, the last time Riviera hosted. So something about the West Coast and start of the year, Hideki, he likes that. He's a player who is prone to injury, and I think that's not a coincidence that without having the baggage of a full tour season behind him yet and starting fresh, that's kind of where we see Hideki at his best. So he looks healthy. His game looks to be in great shape, and he's a player I have high hopes for this week.
John Haslbauer of lineups.com and the Preferred Lines podcast joining us here on the Progressive Guest Line. Who else in that kind of mid-range odds do you like and have on the portfolio this week?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great week for the mid-range because when I look at the other favorites like Xander, like Cam Young, and like Ludwig, they're all coming with a bit of rust and not much, rounds under their belt to start this year. In the mid-range, I really do like Jason Day as well. He's a 2-time winner at the Farmers Insurance Open, the only multi-winner in this field this week. I like Keegan Bradley as well, who is a bit of a buy low opportunity on a kind kind of rusty Sony Open start to begin his year, but somebody who plays this course well. And Max Homa is somebody that I think is picking up some steam. We all know him to be a California killer. He's won 4 times already in his career in the state of California, including at this event in 2021. So he's a player I have very high hopes for a rebound this season after a disappointing 2025. He's made some real improvements to his swing in the offseason, and I think he has, a bright 2026 ahead of him.
All right, people like their long shots as well, but a couple of these names also on this list, I think that we know you have Wyndham Clark up there, and then you get into some of these long shots. What about some of the guys that are maybe touching triple digits or getting to there?
Yeah, sure. Can't forget Wyndham Clark. He's won in difficult conditions in California at the U.S. Open in 2023. So that's right. I do like me some Wyndham Clark this week too. But if we get to further down in the long shots, a few guys I think are worth sprinkling a little action on. The first, Haotong Li, hasn't played this course yet, but we saw with Matthew Pavone 2 years ago, I believe it was, that you can kind of just parlay that hot form from the DP World Tour into an event like this at the beginning of the season. And Haotong Li, I think, is the most interesting player from the DP World Tour getting his start this year. And he's also somebody that's popped in major conditions before, in contention at the Open Championship last week. So a guy, who got off to a hot start and actually finished number 1 in ball striking last week at the Amex, is somebody who I think can ride the hot hand this week. And then Aldrich Potgieter is another one who, kind of got on everybody's radar at this event last year in his rookie season, where he was in the final pairing on Sunday, ended up finishing in the top 20 and got his first PGA Tour win at the Rocket Classic, which was another driver-heavy course. So Potgieter, when we talk about long courses, he will be the longest player in this field, and that's a distinct advantage at Torrey Pines.
One player I just wanted to ask about, because I know there's a lot of media interest this week, and Brooks Koepka making his return to the PGA Tour. It's his first non-major start on tour since 2022, coming over from LIV. I know there's media interest, but should there be any betting interest on him around 55-1 where he is in the outright market, or should people be staying away from Brooks?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm somebody who often will bet for entertainment, and when I see a guy like Brooks Koepka, if I'm not there and I don't get paid for his win, I'm still, as a golf fan, going to enjoy that. So he didn't make his way on my card, but I am going to be rooting for Brooks, and it would not surprise me at all to see, him play well this week. He's not coming in completely rusty. He was active in the off season, at the end of the year last year on the DP World Tour, and looked to be getting closer to his vintage self. And we know with Brooks, it's never really about the form. He can turn it on at a moment's notice once he gets into competition. Torrey Pines simulates a major championship venue, like we said before. It really is like Bethpage of the West, and we know how good he's played, on those kind of classical style, difficult courses. So it would not surprise me to see Brooks in contention on Sunday, and I'll definitely be rooting for him.
All right, let's talk about some other ways to bet this tournament. We've hit a couple of your outrights. What about a matchup or two that maybe you would like here in this tournament?
Yeah, one matchup I have circled for me is Keegan Bradley over Jake Knapp. I believe you can get that one still on DraftKings. For me, early in the season, we're not really sure about everybody's form coming off the offseason, but we are sure about course history. And Keegan, over the years, has always shown up at this course, and he's always showed up on courses like this that are longer and more difficult. So when I'm looking for a matchup, I'm looking for that kind of safety net and high floor. Jake Knapp has gotten off to a hot start, but he hasn't really shown that consistency on the more difficult courses, albeit he does have some solid history at the Farmers Open. So that would be my favorite matchup that I've bet so far.
Great insight, as always. We so appreciate your time, and good luck. Enjoy the Farmers Insurance Open this weekend.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Anytime, and best of luck to you guys, too.
Thanks, bud.
Appreciate you. Again, if you haven't checked out the Preferred Lines podcast yet, make sure you do. You can also follow John on X at PGA Tout, and the article's up at lineups.com.
I have some.
You do?
My
bets this week?
My resolution will be there. We'll have it as part of Best Bets. I will be ready.
am very excited. I was surprised to see you not ask a selfish question, though, however.
See, I'm not you. Also,
my Brooks question wasn't even a selfish one. That was a big one. I'm not betting on Brooks.
You wanted to find out.
I am not. Some people.
I also have a hockey bet today, too.
Okay. And that's exciting. We'll get into that coming up in hour
Nice
two a little bit
VGK.
later. But when we return on Money Moves, while recent histories favor the dog in the Super Bowl, I'll tell you why. I'm looking at some alt spreads on the favorite, plus taking a look at some of the early prop markets for the biggest game of the year, why this rushing yards number is already on the move. Don't go anywhere.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Super Bowl 60 is set. Seahawks, Patriots on deck coming up in just under 2 weeks. Stormy, Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you back here on Money Moves, VSiN, the sports betting network. JVT, you will be out there in Santa Clara throughout Super Bowl week. We're going to be getting a bunch of great guests on the show.
San Francisco.
What do you mean?
I mean, everything's in San Francisco.
Okay.
Is that far?
You're going to be staying in San Jose, though, right? Or flying into San Jose.
No, I'm flying to San Francisco.
You are flying to San Francisco?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's still the general area.
I'm just asking.
That's where the game is in Santa Clara.
Yes, true.
So where's the convention center in San Francisco then, the media row
like
and all of that's going to be?
downtown, the Moscone Center. I don't know what that is. I don't know
Okay.
what it's called. I think I'm saying it correctly.
Okay.
Downtown San Francisco. You have the flight details? I sent you my flight number. You were supposed to give me a free flight. Nothing happened of it.
You literally told me that you didn't want to
You started to tell me to cancel my flight and stuff.
You press a button that says cancel my flight. It doesn't automatically cancel the flight. It then gives you options of
It gave me
how to
options,
cancel.
yeah.
And what were the options?
Like full refund and then like something else.
So then what are we talking about?
I was scared. If I
Oh
cancel,
my gosh,
if I
you're
cancel
such
it,
a child.
If I cancel it, then what happens if like it gets filled all of a sudden and then all of a sudden I can't get back on the plane?
You're going to be fine. You're going to be able to get on a flight.
All right, how about this? Do it for me.
You just don't want something for free, and
How about do it
you're
for
a
me?
baby.
Do
You
it for
can't
me.
handle online.
I will give you my laptop. Do it for me after the show.
Okay.
Really?
Yes, I will do it for you. I don't
Okay,
know why
deal.
you're being
All right,
so
cool.
weird about this.
All right.
I have so many Southwest points. It's like not normal.
Thank you.
Of course. Okay, that said, have you placed your first wager on the Super Bowl yet?
Sweet. No.
Do you think that you will?
Like today, as in like the next couple of minutes?
Like, as far as side total, do you think that, like, that is... Because I know that we're going to have a zillion bets on this thing. We're going to talk about all
Sure.
the different prop angles.
Look.
But side total-wise, do you think that you will land on one of those bets?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm because I'm not trying to be difficult. What I'm doing is I'm just going to wait.
That's stunning to me that you're not trying to be difficult. You just automatically just are that way?
I mean, you're being difficult right now, but not let me speak.
I don't know.
I would say that I am waiting for the number to potentially come down. You do your little lick the finger, test the wind of how people are going to bet this thing. It sounds like the Patriots might have like the sharp support as we've talked about. So maybe this is going to get knocked down. And if the number gets knocked down, maybe just get a little bit more juice out of the squeeze when you're talking about what you're about to bring up here, which is some of the alternate numbers. Yeah. I'm going through some more data and more information and whatnot, but ultimately I'm starting from the position, as you well know, that the Seahawks are my side. They've been my pick for this Super Bowl now for a few weeks. I'm not Nostradamus. They were the favorite for a while. I've just kind of bought into their status as the favorite for a little bit now. And I think that we could, if the Seahawks perform to their expectations, I think that we could get, there is a higher probability that we get a Super Bowl akin to last year, where the Eagles went out there, kind of dominated and ran away with it. And I think we could have that same thing transpire here with Seattle, and thus playing it as such would be the way that I would attack it.
I am in agreement with you. I feel like Seattle in many ways is peaking at the right time going into this Super Bowl against a team that has, while yes, also faced a lot of really, really good defenses, has not faced an offense in the postseason with the upside that the Seattle Seahawks do have when they're not turning over the football.
Yeah.
If they play to their strengths, they win this game, and they have the potential to win it by, I think, more than a touchdown. And so, with that in mind, you mentioned the potential for alt numbers. Right now, our current spread is sitting 4.5, but if we get a better number, then these alts are just going to go up even more. But if you stay under that key number of 7 at the 6.5, you are getting plus money on Seattle. Not enough for my liking at just plus 112. But over the key number of 7.5, plus 140, 9.5, plus 160, Seattle laying 10.5, plus 195, laying 13.5, plus 250, 14.5, 3-1. And then if you go all the way up to nearly 20 at 19.5, plus 490. Are any of those numbers worth it to you if you're betting in this market?
Yeah, I mean, what I'll usually do is I like to play them around the key numbers if I'm playing alternates, what I did last year. So,
that's kind of why I set them out that way, was
Yeah.
I did like the 9.5 and 10.5 if you wanted to stay under the key or if you're willing to go over.
So, like, the way that I would do it is, like minus 6.5, minus 9.5, minus 13.5. Like, throwing those three in there and just having them out. And again, waiting to see, because if this does come down, then in theory, the odds for them to cover these numbers should then become longer, and then thus maybe you get a little bit more out of these. So we'll see if that actually happens. But yes, like the way that I did it last year was exactly that. Played, if I remember correctly, it was exactly that. It was 6.5, 9.5, and then 13.5. The alternate lines for Philly last year against Kansas City.
Meanwhile, conversely, if we are to believe that this number is going to start coming down, then your numbers on New England alt spreads are going to start going away and become less intriguing or worthwhile to bet. So if you are somebody who is on the New England side of this thing, you think that they can win this. Yes, you can bet money line. You can also bet them, minus 2.5 at a plus 209 price, minus 6.5 at plus 395. So if you are on the other side of this thing and you don't understand how New England is an underdog in this role, you think that they're amazing and Drake May's an MVP and all of these things, there are alternate ways that you can buy in on them as well. We also mentioned on our Sunday show, Live Bet Sunday this past weekend, of the Patriots in the first half trend that has been running wild. It was a 7-7 halftime score in the AFC Championship, so that was a no cover there, but 16-4 ATS in the first half for the Patriots this season, 17-1-2 on the money line, 15-0-2 on the money line last 17 first halves for them. So thoughts?
Been a very strong first half team.
Very, very good.
Now, I think people are probably going to get mad at the New England side. I think that is where you probably bring up the schedule thing a little bit, right? Which is, though you're playing some relatively poor teams, I think it's a little bit easier to jump on top of those teams in early going, especially if they're a poor defensive group. Where on the flip side, this is a team that in Seattle is not that. Is going to be very well prepared. They're a very good defensive team, and I think that's going to be something that makes a little bit of a difference for New England here in these matchups. I mean, I think the last time out against the Broncos, they were not covering in the first half, so that's something to keep in mind too. But either way, I think as the level of competition goes up is the overall point here. I don't know if I'm buying all the way in and them being as strong of a first half team, especially the here against Seattle. I think you kind of throw it out the window when you talk about this level of competition.
In terms of the prop market, we're going to go through each and every day looking at different props.
I was kind of disappointed.
About what?
I was kind of going through. I was waiting for, and it's going to get more exotic, and we're going to get some more stuff as it goes along.
We have very basic right now. It's like all the standard passing props, standard receiving props, standard rushing props, anytime touchdown score. That's all we have right now. But you imagine the market's going to expand significantly. What?
Tomorrow I will have, because Westgate will reveal, they'll have their packet ready. Is that it was Wednesday night?
No, tonight. Yeah, tonight
today's Wednesday. So I'll go down there, grab a packet, and then we'll have some stuff, some more exotic stuff to play with as well. I really love those crossboard props. They're a ton of fun, so we can talk about a few of those as well. I suggested another one to an odds maker yesterday doing local. I don't think he's going to do it. But what do you think of, what was my, it was Myers. It was Jason Myers for the Seahawks. Total made field goals versus teams from the Mountain West to make it into the NCAA tournament.
Ooh.
Yeah, right? So right now the number's around 3 for the Mountain West.
Yeah.
So, and his kicking prop is, it's going to be around, it's not going to be 2.5, but probably like 1.5 over or something, minus 160, something like that. I'm just going off of what last game was. So
who did you suggest this to?
Over at Will Hill Caesars. I'm sorry, I can't remember his name. It's been a long day. I've been up since I got home at like midnight. I woke up at like 3.
Why? What were you doing last night? Oh yeah,
it was a late game. Yeah, it was a late game. So
UNLV, New Mexico.
But yeah,
totally worth it to stay up for.
Hey, man, I have a job to do, okay? You don't just leave the sidelines when you're watching a blowout, do you?
I know, and trust me, I've seen many of those. Although, I sent you this list the other day, and neither you nor Justin even responded. ESPN put out an article for their top 100, most exciting college football games of the year, and my crew is on 3 of the top 10. I was like, that's so cool. And then I didn't even get a double tap, not even a like on the text. Like, y'all hate me.
Again, I'm here to bring you down a peg.
I thought it was pretty cool.
How many people did you send that to?
We did have a handful of blowouts. I sent it to you. You were the only people I sent that to.
You're a liar.
Literally the only people I sent that to.
I don't believe it.
Look at my text messages.
Okay, let me pull them right up. Either way, I have an idea. I have a bunch of ideas of props that I would like. We have to go through and talk about them. But either way, maybe we can get them up on a board next year.
We'll kind of parse that out, though, throughout the course of the next 2 weeks, everything that we're doing. One I did want to make note of real quickly because we made the comment on Call Me Crazy Butt earlier this week, like, do your overs early, unders late type of a situation when you're betting these Super Bowl props because of the way things are going to be played over the course of the next 2 weeks and the majority of bets coming in late. This Drake May rushing yards prop opened 30 plus.
It's going to get,
Within like a day was 34 plus. Right now it's over under 38.5. So it just keeps on going up and up. And so just like that's kind of what we're talking about with this is I'm very curious to see where that's ultimately going to land in a week and a half.
I mean, and I'd be tempted to bet that under, especially if it continues to rise. Look, one of the things I think, if we know it, they know it type of deal, I think that Mike McDonald and the Seahawks are going to be probably aware of Drake May and the damage he can do as a runner of the football. And so having some options for him, breaking out of the pocket, anything like that, I think they'll be pretty ready for it. So I'll be interested to see the peak of that number and kind of cutting it in and getting under that total for him.
And as we talk about these numbers being on the move, remember, before the line moves, the sharp plays is already there. January isn't about volume, it's about precision. And with the Super Bowl now on deck, limits are rising, mistakes shrink. This is the tightest number that you're going to find all year, and timing matters more than ever. You're not going to outsmart billion-dollar sportsbooks or full-time sharps on your own with sharp plays. You don't have to. Powered by advanced AI, connected to proven insider sources, and locked in on this NFL postseason. Sharp Plays has identified where the sharp money hits before the number disappears. SharpPlays.com, trusted by the pros, monitored by the books. Stay ahead of the line this postseason at SharpPlays.com.